Hey, what's up everyone? Tankenstein here. In this video, I just want to give a very, very special thank you to the European Canadian. He's a real cool dude. Definitely subscribe to him. Look him up on Twitch. Follow him on Twitch. Real great guy. He was able to actually take some time out of his schedule to talk with me for about 2 hours on a live stream on Twitch regarding the various challenges with War Thunder, the future of War Thunder, the problems of War Thunder, things of that nature. And we really kind of went over a lot in this video, and he was a great guide. He was really the driving force of the video. So certainly I want to give a really big thank you. But that being said, please remember, like, comment, subscribe. But without further ado, let's get into the video.
There's definitely a ton of stuff that I see complained about a lot, which at least to me, they're not issues. I mean, maybe they are to others.
Yeah.
But at least to me, it's not too bad. Like one of the big things is always the economy stuff that always happens. Like every time there's a lot of chat about, you know, is that positive, is that negative, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like, one of the big ones, I think now especially, is the Sagittario, which is, you know, I mean, what is it, like 23,000 silver lines? And I can understand, you know, to a point, like, why people would be upset. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, while you have that going up in cost, a lot of other things are going down. And actually, one thing that I noticed, what was it? It was, you'd pointed out, actually, in a recent video that there were a few American planes, or one American plane that went down, and one that went up, but like they were a net you know, reduction. It was the two Japanese captured planes, and I think the Super Hellcat, that's what it is. It's
the GE stuff. Like
yeah. I mean, like, it's where we see some increase in some places. You know, whether it's GE or Silverline repair, whatever the case may be. It's not like, hey, well, you know, rent's going up. It's it'll increase somewhere, it'll decrease otherwhere. You know, it's thankfully it's not this across the board sort of thing. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the interesting thing, so about the G vehicles, you're completely right. Like they're pretty much matching them to BR changes and rank changes they've done over the years, right?
Yeah.
So what's ended up happening is they're just restructuring them to what they actually should be. Compared to where they're actually at in the game. And the main criticism I've seen behind those things is it hasn't happened, or it should have happened sooner, which is kind of funny with that stuff. But I mean, it's happening now, so at least it's happening. The SL stuff is really interesting. Somebody made a spreadsheet looking at all of the changes, like the economy stuff, and they actually tallied up everything. And it turns down overall the repair cost in total is reducing by a massive amount.
Wow.
But the problem with it is that also a lot of SL modifiers are decreasing as well. So you're going to pay less for repairs, but also you're going to make less.
Yeah.
And the determining factor is going to really be that, you know, that new system they're bringing in, like the activity one.
I've heard about that. I didn't really read about it too much in detail, but I did hear how you kind of have to be above the median, or was that already in place?
What they're basically doing is they're making the factor, they're making activity way more based on not just what you do while you're in the game, but also the time that you spend in it as well. So they kind of did this last year as well, where they increased the amount of RP you got over time. There was actually a limiter in place where once you hit like a certain time and a certain set of actions, you were kind of like, you know, flatline out when it came to the stuff you did. But now they're trying to increase it in a way so you'd make more if you have those same actions, but over a longer period of time. So it negatively affects people who spend less time in battles, but positively affects people who spend more time in battles, basically.
Oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, because I mean, that's one thing I'm sure pretty much like you and probably everyone who's watching this can agree, is that when you get into a match, especially top tier, you know, and you have a million terms players, right? Like, I mean, when the terms was most recently on sale, you know, there were matches where I think every player on my team was a terms player except for one person who just had a regular T72. You know, and it's just like, it's literally all T72s. And they get in, they die, and they leave. And it's now something like this. It's going to benefit those who say, okay, look, like I've done it myself. We've gotten whooped before, like a T-34-85 in an MBT match. My team has gotten whooped by this guy. It's possible. If you have a less than tank in an MBT match, you're not going to necessarily lose. You just have to play smarter, and it's these people, they have like this mentality that you get in, you fight, and then you die, and then you leave, and they don't really care about what happens to the team. And it's, in a way, it's kind of good to see that sort of behavior, at least through the economy, is being punished, whereas those who actually want to stay, even if it's not really what they really want to do, when I'm recording a review, I don't want to like stay in and play like my other Japanese tanks, for example. But it's good that that sort of behavior is being rewarded versus the early leaving behavior. At least that's how it sounds.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you play mid tiers or when you play low tiers, the games are generally longer, right? Because more people spawn in, lineups are a little bit more full, especially for like certain nations. But at high ranks, it can literally be the match is decided after 3 or 4 minutes. And it's really sad. I'm not gonna lie. So I definitely think this is a positive thing. But we're gonna have to see when they bring it in what it looks like. I mean, that's the other thing, right? Because we're only going off word right now. But hopefully it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. It's like when it comes to a lot of these changes, especially when it comes to BR changes. I remember, what was it, late last year, the Leopard was like the hot topic, right? Like I think it was down tier.
2A6?
No, the regular, the Leopard 1. Wasn't that supposed to get a down tier, or was it the M80, M48? I forget.
They were going to push the M48 down to 6.7.
That's what it was.
Instead, they moved the Leopard down to 7.3. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people were pissed. And I mean, like, a lot of these times they're proposed changes. There's things that they put out there a lot of the time so that they can get the feel of the community, see what's going on. Because at the end of the day, as War Thunder's their system is, as far as I know it, it's largely, as I think actually you said it earlier in this chat or in a video that you said, unless I misheard you. But again, as I've come to understand it, all these things, they're based on an algorithm, and the machine, so to speak, the computers that Gaijin has kind of say, okay, the Silver Lions have to be, the cost on this has to go up, the cost on this has to go down based on player performance.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which wasn't the Leopard 2 PL, wasn't that down BR'd recently, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it was, which was an interesting move. But yeah, the BR changes are generally based on stats, and then what happens is you have the community feedback side, right? And then when that comes in, then they take that in, and then they readjust based on the community feedback, kind of like what you said with the M48 and the Leopard.
Yeah.
Repair costs are just straight up player stats. There's no, the only thing where that's slightly different is when a vehicle gets first introduced, right?
Yeah.
Because that's more like a human trying to work out how good a vehicle is, which is not always good. But yeah, I see a lot of criticism of that method, and I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's what every other game does.
Yeah.
And not just like other free-to-plays, but like stuff like Call of Duty. They do the same thing when it comes to balancing and things. So I don't really understand how else they're supposed to do it, really.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
Well, the only other way you could do it is maybe, I don't know, like a weird council of elders who would somehow play all of the vehicles in the game all the time. But I mean, that's impossible. So, it's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, and another thing that a lot of people, they forget about, I mean, I don't know how long you've been playing this game, but if I'm not mistaken, you've been playing for quite a while now, for years and years, much like myself. And
yeah, I've been playing since 2013.
There you go. I mean, I've played, I think, about seven and a half years, but I mean, admittedly, I took maybe like a year or two off.
Yeah.
You know, maybe even a little bit longer, but still years. And, you know, I remember back when there were no tanks, and we've come such a long way in this game where not only do we have aviation, but we have helicopters as almost like a subtree in aviation, but also a subtree in tanks because that's how they're more or less deployed. We have naval, all these different things. And we have, I think, what was it, near almost 2,000 vehicles if you include all the variants. And for this system, I mean, it almost has to be automated because there's so many different vehicles in the game where you're looking at it and you're just like, if you had one person or two or however many people just crunching the numbers and trying to figure it out, you'd probably, whoever that is, I mean, like, there would be so much human error where I think that they look at it as best they can. They say, okay, this vehicle is not doing well at this BR based on the statistics. Let's move it down. It saves them probably a tremendous amount of manpower. And of course, you do have your cases like the Leopard 2 PL, you know, where as I suspected, along with a lot of other people, where it's just one of those things that you could purchase with GE, may as well have been a premium at 10 point or 11.0. And you could purchase it with GE, and then a lot of noobs get into it and they drag it down. It happens. But even at 10.7, I mean, it's not an insanely bad BR. It's, you know, doable. You can kill it. You know, I mean, I can kill it with Heat FS. You know, it's tough, but you could do it.
And if you want to put a lineup around it, you have to run it at 11.0 anyway, right?
Yeah.
So unless you're using it as a sole vehicle, which doesn't really work at top tier a lot of the time, then you're kind of going to get screwed. I think there is definitely issues with the system. You know, you brought one up there, like the whole premium thing, right? Or event vehicle or squadron vehicle, whatever you want to talk about. Like, at least for me, I feel some of them are under BR'd. Like, you know, the L44 is an example. You know, the AMX 30 Super, stuff like that. And that is where it gets a little bit tricky when it comes to like just relying on player stats.
Yeah.
But I feel generally like if you look at 99.9% of the game, it's pretty well balanced. And the major thing that affects stuff is more about meta BRs and what nations people play instead of like the, you know, the little fractions of stuff like the Sagittario.
Yeah.
Like I think with the Sagittario there is something to note though. The fact that they're putting it up in BR and also crazy up in repair cost. I think maybe when it comes to like vehicles like that, because I remember what happened with the British vehicles, right? Like the OG 67s, the Carnarvon, the Cent Mark III, and the FV4202, they went up in BR like crazy, and also are still quite high in SL, but they are dropping now. But I feel like that could have been counteracted before it was required. Maybe not shoot it up in repair cost and up in BR at the same time. Maybe something could be put into there to try and fix that.
No, I agree. It's you know, at the end of the day, it almost kind of seems like an all or nothing. You know, like kind of like how the body responds to an illness, for example. It's just like you throw all your white blood cells at it, and it's just you hope the problem's gone. When realistically speaking, I mean, this is a much more black and white or a gray scenario. You know, when you have X or Y vehicle, I mean, there's some things that are balanced or that they can do to improve upon vehicles without necessarily changing BRs. The R3T20, for example, I remember actually I had gotten that because I never really delved too much into the Italian tree, but I got it, and within 2 days of me getting it, they messed with the stabilizer, and they destroyed basically what was the main thing. And you do still have people complaining about it, but I mean, the complaints I hear drop down by like 95%, because people can't just like go around at 70 kilometers per hour now and just, blast people off the face of the earth with this autocannon on this, this hot, like this lunchbox, and there's some things where I almost kind of feel like if we had a more accurate representation of the vehicle in game, without stealing classified documents, of course, that we could, I don't know. It's just there's other ways that we could do it, rather than increase the BR, decrease the BR, and and actually I'd been watching your the video on Winders, and I do agree with you, but in one way, I kind of want to almost see what it's like, if we decompress BR. or if we like just by 0.3, you know, or something like minor, but at the end of the day, it's all you're doing is shifting the meta. You know,
well,
you're
they
not.
They did that last update.
Exactly.
They went from 10.7 to 11.0, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. I think it, as I said, like it's just shifted what people play.
Yeah.
It has had a positive effect though, and you know, I'm sure eventually they'll do 11.3 too. The R3, so the R3T20 one is interesting, right?
Yeah.
So there's like 3 things that I've noticed about it. So the first one is people only complain about it during event time. So when events are going on, because people use it to cap and, you know, run around like crazy people. But normally during not event time, you don't actually see that many of them. And then the second point is I do this thing on my stream where we have like a request service record thing. So I can have a look at people's service records. And there's a lot of people who like use the R3 during these events that I've seen. They all have negative KDs and they all have negative win rates. And the third thing was, I don't know if you've been watching it, but you know Oxy?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so Oxy does, it's like Tea with Oxy. He does it on Mondays on the War Thunder Twitch channel, and he answers questions. And I remember after the BR changes were released, he got a little bit aggravated from getting asked like the same questions about vehicles. And he was talking about the R3, and he's like, I've looked at the stats. It's not doing as well as you guys think it is.
Yeah.
You know, like it was just as simple as that. And if you're not going to trust him, who's, you know, he used to be a CC, you know, he's now an employee, so that there's going to be bias involved and stuff. But at the same time, there's no reason for him to lie to you about these facts, you know.
Of course, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like when it comes to a lot of these things, a lot of them, you know, are just split reactions, you know. I mean, there are some heinous offenses, for example, like when the Harrier GR1 was first added.
Yeah,
you know, like,
you're not wrong here.
Oh yeah, like that was insane. You know, I mean that was probably the worst I've ever seen it. But you have some vehicles that, I mean, that only some people have access to. For example, like actually, I just recently got the heavy tank number 6. This isn't really a good example of it, but it's the Tiger, the Japanese Tiger, and I love it. You know, but it's basically like a slightly better, it's like an in-between between a Tiger H and a Tiger E, and realistically speaking, it's more similar to a Tiger H, but it sits at 5.7. You know, and you can attribute that to many things, like the fact that it's on the Japanese tech tree versus X or Y vehicle, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like you have the R3T20s, you know, as we just kind of been mentioning as well, where it's like that vehicle, a lot of people, they see it doing these crazy things, but they don't look at the guy on their team with the R3T20 who just gets blasted. You know, they don't see like everyone else. Like they see the one who wronged them, you know, like the one guy out of like the 10 that they fought in like the last 3 matches who's just like annihilated them. And then they take offense to it. You know, of course, like I hate it. You know, I hate being hit by, especially like if I'm in a really slow tank and some like dude in R3T20 just comes up and like wrecks me. That stinks. But that's not a common scenario. You know, it's not all that common. You know, a Centauro, for example. I mean, let's just go fall on offensive against Italian tanks. Like I hate being killed by Centauros. You know, and I could easily say, wow, that needs to be up tiered. Why did I get killed by it? But you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, I can see why it's that BR. I mean, there's some vehicles that I've recently purchased. One vehicle, at least, is the Chinese WMA 301. That should probably be up BR'd by 0.3 or by 0.4. Right now, it's at 8.3. It's got a tandem charge ATGM. It just absolutely one-shots pretty much everything, and probably could do so up through about 10.0 BR. But at the end of the day, it's like there are some scenarios that are so rare that it's just very difficult to say. And then you have a lot of people complaining about the Pack Puma. You know, we're getting the pack track now with this coming Battle Pass.
Yeah, true.
You know, and that I'm sure everyone's gonna be like, actually, it's gotta be up BR and so on. But like, I mean, Should it? I mean, like Fly Daily, actually, I think he made a good point a few weeks ago, like with I think with the recently down BR'd TDs for the Germans, like the Dicker Max, the Sturrer Meal, you know how they've received, how they've received down BRs, but even more so like the Dicker Max and the Sturrer Meal, it's like they have these ridiculously high penning things. It's like, but what do they need all that pen at 233 or at 4.3 or whatever it is to kill? I mean, down BRing them really isn't necessarily going to do much because a 3.3 BR tank, it's not necessarily going to be like much slower or faster than a 4.0 or 4.3, and it will die all the same versus that cannon. You know, it doesn't really matter. So it's like there's more things I think that go into it than just like, oh, I got killed by it. Man, this stinks. You know, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of off on a tangent though.
No, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, like a lot of humans, they just remember the negative experiences they've had, right?
Yeah.
Like there's psychologists talk about this a lot, where we're like hardwired to remember the negative stuff, whether it's to try and not repeat it again, or you know, to try and learn from it or whatever. And I feel a lot of experiences or a lot of individuals in the community kind of have that issue where you will have, you know, 10, 20 games. You'll have that 1 or 2 games where it just doesn't go well, and that is your night. You know, you remember that and nothing else. The interesting thing about the Dicamax and the Stur is you are right. Like it's the guns don't benefit from getting down BR'd, but the major thing I've seen with those is with the overpressure changes. Artillery is so deadly to them, and planes are insanely deadly to them.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like moving them down in BR doesn't fix that, right? Like it doesn't make them better. Yeah. Like maybe they're just moving them around to try and see if they can find a place where they work well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's also like, you know, I'm sure we've all done it, like in any video game, right? Like where you have this character that you can make. And it's like with Fallout, for example, that's a good example maybe with this. It's like when you can create a character where it's got like all strength and no intelligence, and he just goes around like blathering his words. In much the same way, it's like you have this vehicle with this crazy powerful cannon, right? Like 128 millimeter cannon that at the same size cannon I don't think is seen until you reach the Jagdtiger, right? But it's got nothing else. Like, I mean, you could walk up behind it. I mean, if you had infantry in the game, like you could walk up behind it and just like take a 22 and just kill the entire crew. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing protecting them. And it's like, it's not so much, it's just, what do you do with those vehicles? You know, it's in top tier, it becomes a little bit less of an issue because at top tier, you have more of those vehicles. So it's kind of more normal, I guess you could say, like the Centaur, like the wheeled vehicles, you know, like the wheeled TDs. But at lower BRs, it's just like you have the M3 or the M4 or A4 or whatever, like any of the M4s, like the Shermans. You know, they could just be across the entire map and just snipe the entire crew with their HMG, and you've got nothing to show for it. Or, you know, I mean, you could even do that with the M1A2 or whatever it is, like the M2A2 with the one with all those machine guns. That thing would be kryptonite to a Dicker Max or an Ashorn or any open top, you know, vehicle for that matter, even to an M18. You know, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little off topic here. I've got kind of a weird way of doing that. So if I do, just let me know.
No, I'm fine. Just keep talking. It just means that I can, you know, kind of sift through and, you know, pick things I want to chat about.
Yeah.
So what's the big difference between those mid-tier tank destroyers and the wheeled vehicles?
Well, what do you mean? Oh, you mean like is that like
why do you think those keep going down, whereas the wheeled vehicles either keep going up or stay the same?
Well, I mean, I would imagine that has to do with their effectiveness in battle. I mean, wheeled vehicles are substantially faster. They can reach their targets more. I mean, the Obel 74 HVG, for example, that can pen through anyone near its BR and get anywhere quickly, whereas a Dicker Max, good luck, you know, at least getting anywhere.
What about the fact they've all got turrets?
Oh, yeah, you know what? I totally forgot about that. It's such an integral part of the thing. Like you get so right there, you get so fixated on one thing where it's like you don't really apply your analytical mind to it.
No, it's all good. Cause so what happens if you get flanked in a Centauro? You turn your turret and you shoot the thing.
Yeah.
What happens if you get flanked in a Decamax? You have to turn the whole damn thing, wait for the gun to stabilize, and then maybe shoot the guy if he hasn't shot you in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of the reason why, even if you have a look at like the Waffenträger, for example, the Waffenträger has a lot of the issues that all three Decamax, Nashorn, and Sturm Mill have. But it doesn't get dropped in BR because it has that turret and it also has really good optics to back it up too. So like you can actually position properly. You don't have to always be face first. And to me, like all of those changes we've seen with BRs, like for Casemates, like they're all going down. None of them are going up at all. The Agtag has gone down, Ferdinand's gone down, the Stur, the Dicker that we talked about. The only ones that aren't moving down are stuff like the T95, which, has different things. But I think, like, looking at BRs and stuff, so in the last round of, like, BR changes, were there any that you thought were a little bit odd or you didn't agree with?
I mean, like, there wasn't really too much. Do you mean, like, prior to the proposed ones that are going on now?
Well, now's the economy changes, right? I think the VR changes have been implemented.
Yeah,
if I'm right.
My apologies. Yeah, you're right.
All good.
Now I get those. I'm just like trying to think. Like,
don't worry. Mate, like the last 2 years of War Thunder, so much stuff has gone on. Like in the game, it's impossible to bloody keep up now.
Yeah,
like there's so much. Every day there's something new. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for us content creators. But. At the end of the day, it does get kind of a little bit overloading, but ultimately, I mean, the way I kind of see it though, like I never really considered it, and the main reason being like why I never really took offense to any of the most recent, like none stick out to me, mainly because I'm just like, well, it may have been down tiered, but I can still kill it. I don't really look at it like, man, that stinks. How am I gonna kill it now? It's just like. With a good example like the T95, for example, how am I going to like if that got down tiered by to 6.7? If that got down tiered to 6.3, I'd be like, man, that really sucks. Like, how can I beat it? Yeah. But most of the vehicles like the Leopard 1, for example, M48, like you can beat them. They're not these these impenetrable tanks. They all have weak spots regardless of the BR that they're at. You just have to know them a little bit better if they go down in BR. So I never really considered it, Yeah,
it's the Leopard one is the weird one to me because I never really understood the big pushback for moving it down. Like I agree that it's a 7.7, but at the same time, it being at a 7.3, it doesn't really alter that much because all of the 6.7s that it faces can easily kill it.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not massively armored and never has been. It's a flank and spank tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it solves the issue that it was designed to, then it's all right. Now now there's a lineup at 7.3 for Germany instead of before, where at 7.7 you had nothing and the M48 was just left dead. So yeah, I mean it's in a much better position. Like a lot of there's a few BR changes I would like to seen down that ilk, like the Rattle 90, the Rattle 20. I feel like should go down a bit, but I'm kind of like you in a way. Like there wasn't any where I was kind of perplexed by it. I didn't really feel like there were too many issues. But we've been talking a lot about obviously. Many things we agree on, and many things in the game. What do you actually see as an issue in War Thunder then?
As an issue
in general? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's difficult. So, like, a lot of my viewer base, of course, I only have like a quarter of your subscribers on YouTube, so it's not like quite as large as your viewer base, but a lot of the people that I interact with on a daily basis. Or near daily basis are for lack of a better term, they're noobs, right? Like they're new to the game, because that's kind of how I structured a lot of my early to even still current content. It's just like guides and things of that nature. Yeah. And the things that I kind of, I don't really know if this is a problem, but I don't know. I mean, like, do you think that, I mean, because as much as I want to say like, oh, maybe the game is too complex for new players, I don't really know if that's a problem, because I mean, once you learn the game, it takes like a week or two, you're good. I mean, again, when it comes to if the Leopard 1 gets down BR'd, or if this or that changes, I just look at ways that I can still win, like it's tough for me to come up with a genuine problem, to be honest with you. And I've actually put some thought into this. Let me see. I actually wrote some stuff down, but I think we've already tackled it for the most part. I was going to say, like, silver line increases. Like, I don't think that necessarily the Sagittario should see such a huge silver line increase. But with the exception of maybe like server lag, ghost shells on occasion, I don't know. I mean, there's not real. Oh, maybe foliage. I mean, you could argue that, like, maybe it's too effective. I could definitely see that actually as an issue. Because there's some people who are just so totally, there's just some people that are just totally invisible in a way with foliage, that it's just impossible to see them. And especially if you don't have premium, if you don't buy Battle Pass. I mean, I've bought 4, maybe 5 pieces of foliage from Battle Pass. If you don't have Battle Pass, then you probably are going to be at a substantial disadvantage, because that gives you enough war bonds to get foliage, and then to get the premium bonus or the premium vehicles that you have with Battle Pass. So it's like, one could argue that there are some like pay to win-ish features that I feel like maybe can be toned down, maybe like make foliage less effective.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I don't know. I mean, there's not really too much that I can think of. How about you?
Yeah. So when it comes to the pay to win stuff, I think in general War Thunder's not done a bad job at it. A lot of the premiums, at least nowadays, like back in the day when they didn't have tech tree equivalents, like the A1A1 L44 now has the Leopard 1A5, for example, right?
Yeah.
Or the 040 MTCA, once again, Leopard 1A5. But I think in the past there was definitely times where you could say that, well, this vehicle doesn't have a tech tree equivalent, or maybe it's at a BR where it's very strong. The only time in War Thunder's history where I'd say they did have pay-to-win vehicles, and they still do, they're still in the game, is funny because it's actually in Naval. And so when they introduced Naval CBT going into OBT, they put in a bunch of destroyer premiums, and these destroyer premiums were just flat out better than their tech tree premiums. Like, they had more guns, they had obviously fully spaded and all that bonuses, but the main thing was they had better armament, so they were just flat out better at the same VR. So that's pay to win, in my opinion. That's how I define it, right?
Yeah.
The bush thing, so I think generally bushes are all right because you can get them through the Warbond shop. So it's available to everybody. It takes a long time to get them all. I do agree with you. Maybe they could make it so you can get more than one box a time with Warbond shop now, because they lowered the amount of Warbond shops because of the Battle Pass stuff. The 5 bush pack, the 5 big bush pack, that was something they should have nipped in the bud at the time. That is one of the big issues I see with that. They should get rid of that. But the biggest issue I see in War Thunder, and have for a long time, is the stock to spaded experience of a lot of vehicles. The fact that not just the top tier MBT, but pretty much any vehicle in the game, when you play it when it has no modifications and compare it to when it has all of its modifications, it's a completely different vehicle a lot of the time. And they've lessened it a little bit with jets recently, but then they made it worse last year with top tier MBTs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, for me that has always been a problem, and hopefully at some point they maybe reduce it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I hadn't even thought about that when you asked me the question, but it's totally true. I mean, like, now, at least in top tier matches, you can get yourself, with aircraft, they did themselves a solid, and now you can get, the basic air to air missiles, which helps
Yeah,
tremendously, especially in Russian aircraft, where it's just like, you know how it is, like fighting with cannons on those. It's not impossible. It's just not fun, and it just
yeah,
it makes such a difficult thing, because not only can you not only are you dying quicker, but you're not getting any kills.
yeah,
So it's like you don't have your engines to climb up higher. You don't have the you don't even have like versatile rounds. You just have default shells, which oftentimes are trash.
yeah,
So it's like in much the same way, like with the Heat FS. I mean, holy cow, like that really, I mean, made top tier grinding just near impossible. It's just, or not near impossible, but very difficult. And I don't know if Gaijin, they have this belief that people at top tier are just, you have Heat FS, but you've been playing for a few years, so get over it. But as you said, it becomes extremely weird, and extremely difficult. And there's even a few cases, like weird cases in the tech tree. I don't know if they fixed it yet, but the ME262 C2 or CA2, whatever it is, C2A, the one with the numerous rocket boosters. I remember the grind for that was like 40,000 RP just to be able to get it, and this was when 10.0, if I'm not mistaken, the Super Saber and MiG 19 were already out. But
yeah,
here this thing is, I mean, you have like these anachronisms in a way that people still play, but they're just impossible to grind, and they're not necessarily game winners either. It's not like this tank where it's like, or a vehicle where if you see it on your team, you're just like, oh, we've won. It's just
yeah,
unnecessarily high RP limits, and to the point when it comes to naval. Actually, I did a video on that a few months ago, and of course, my methodology was a little bit not necessarily perfect, but I averaged out how much I made, or how much RP I gained in per match in naval versus, or per minute in a match in naval, versus how much I may have gained in the same type of match in air, for
yeah,
example. And it was like a third of the RP. I mean, it's just like there's a lot of hidden stuff where it's like, oh wow, in naval, this only cost me, I don't know, 1,000 or maybe like 5,000 RP to unlock like this mod. But
mm,
realistically speaking, it's going to take you as much time as a 15,000 RP thing might cost. So it's
yeah.
like
I see what you mean.
there's a lot of things, especially when it comes to those the modifiers being reduced. And I don't know if they're reducing RP modifiers as well, but certainly by decreasing the SL modifiers, it's not going to necessarily help. I mean, it won't necessarily hurt, but I can't see a way in which it'll help either. God.
No, I think SL wise it'll probably stay around the same. The only thing, it depends when it comes to aviation, especially
Hmm.
when they're doing those huge research reductions at the end of August,
Oh wow.
for the rank stick stuff.
Hmm.
That because I feel like what they're doing right now is they're bringing in the economy changes,
Yeah.
but they're based off that change right there, right?
Yeah.
And therefore it's going to be a month of people complaining until that comes in, and then it's going to be silence again.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting time. I do agree with you with the research of stuff though, especially in naval. Naval takes ages to research stuff, and you don't have reduced parts, you don't have reduced FPE. They did talk about it recently that they are going to actually do that for naval, but there's no sign of when they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you that vehicles kind of a similar BR or similar rank, they don't necessarily need the same RP cost, right? Maybe RP cost could be based on some kind of usability idea. Like if you compare the Leopard 2A6 to the Florakrad, right? Now the 2A6 is going to be useful in 90% of scenarios. The Florakrad is going to be useful in 10 to 15, depending on what you're doing. But they're the same cost, right? RP wise and SL wise. Why can't they do something where they make the 2A6 a little bit more expensive, maybe, or maybe just make that part of the tech tree a little bit more expensive while reducing the other part to try and get people to use these vehicles instead? And then the other thing that I should have brought up before, what reminded me was when you brought up the 262 thing. The fact that end of the line vehicles have insane research costs, so like research modification costs, makes no sense to me and never has.
Yeah.
Right? So the IL-28 for Germany right now, its rank 4 modifications are 52,000 RP.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's insane. And the rank 1 ones are 32,000, rank 2 36, and rank 3 is 40,000 RP. In order to research this thing out, you're probably looking close to maybe 500,000 RP, 400 to 500,000. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But because it's an end-of-the-line vehicle, and also maybe not one that a ton of people are interested in because it's a straight copy and paste from the Soviet ones, like, I don't know, it just never really gets talked about, and I don't understand why, really.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's just like, it's almost like these arbitrary limits that are being placed on these vehicles, not due to like how good they are or whatever the case may be. I mean, if you play an IL-28 in top tier air, you're gonna get thrashed. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
True.
I mean, most people in 8.0 with an IL-28 are still going to have a difficult time with it because you're the main target. You know, it doesn't matter how fast you move, you're the target. You know, even the AR-234, if I'm not, well, it's similar speed, but it's also 0.3 or 0.7 BR lower, at least when it comes to realistic. And, you know, you're getting these vehicles that are prohibitively, I mean, they're just difficult to use, not because they're bad vehicles, but it's like you're, you know, public enemy number one. And not only that, but as you said, like the RP is just this ridiculous. I mean, like I actually, yeah, I do have the IL-28 for the Germans, but 52,000 just to unlock that. I mean, it's just like that's ridiculous. You know, I mean, thankfully engines aren't top tier, but I mean, it doesn't really do you much favor to try to have to grind out 40,000 RP in a match where you're going to get shot down 3 out of 4 times before reaching your target just to get engines that only give you 1.3 meters per second better climb rate. I mean, you can get that climb rate with, I'm just going to check this random thing, FW190A8. You can get that with, I know it's totally different. The same engine injection on that for 4,400 RP gives you 1.4 meters per second. And I know totally different types of planes and all that, but it's like, what's the point? You know, I mean, it makes people not want to do it. And then all of a sudden, I don't know. It's just, it seems like there's almost this, like, in a way, Gaijin is trying to de-incentivize people from doing it, or because certain planes are no longer the flavor of the month. I mean, again, you have, or vehicles in general, you have over, nearly 2,000 or over 1,000. I forget the exact numbers, but it's over 1,000 vehicles in the game, where it's like some vehicles don't get touched. So because they don't get touched, they could dominate. They could have really favorable RP, requirements, whatever the case may be. And because they don't get played much, they get left alone. And, you know, it's just, meanwhile, you have the same version or, you know, some other version of it or whatever the case may be in game, IL-28 prime example, and it's just this ridiculous grind just to get everything. I mean, I've got the G91R3, and let's see, wing repair on that, 13,000 RP. That's it. You know, like, that's a much more usable plane than the IL-28. Like, why is that much more difficult? And it's got the Nords. You know.
Yeah, that's true. And to bring up an example to your point about like the the same, not just the same vehicles, but like the different stats on the same vehicles. The fact that the Panzer 4G for Germany was moved to 3.3, and the Italian one, which is a premium, is still sat at 4.0, and they're exactly the same vehicle, apart from the Italian one doesn't have side skirts, and I think it has maybe a little bit of like spaced armor on the turret, but that's it. And they're now 0.7 away from each other.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little bit weird. But the two major things I see, because I personally don't really see SL as an issue. Like, have you ever had issues with SL in the game?
Anytime this decade, no. I mean, like, I mean, of course, like, one could make an argument, he's a content.
You mainly play arcade, right?
I used to.
At least you used to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had a really easy time of it, but at the same token, it's like, even after switching to realistic, it's like, still all the same to me. I mean, but I'll make a concession. I mean, or an admission, I mean to say, I do have premium time, but I did a poll actually recently where I'm pretty sure most people who have played this game for any period of time have premium time because, quite frankly, it's so inexpensive, relatively speaking, compared to other games.
Yeah, it's I mean, 50% off. It's $40 a year. So
yeah. I mean,
it's not a crazy amount.
No. I mean, especially when you compare it to one of my friends plays a ton of WoW. And I used to play WoW.
Oh yeah,
it's
subscription, right?
Oh yeah. It's insane. I remember once I paid for 2 months of that. It was $30, and I only played exactly 1 month of it, and I stopped playing. For just a little bit over that, if you wait for a sale, you can get a full year of premium time here, and get more or less as many silver lines as you need if you're decent enough at the game. I don't know. But yeah, I've never had any silver line issues. At least not since like probably I don't know, since maybe just after tanks became a thing.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, even see the thing for me when it comes to SL is like I turn off auto repair, which saves a bunch of SL, and I've never ever used GE to buy anything when it comes to standard tech tree stuff. And I've just ground through the tech trees, right?
Same.
And over the last year or so, it seems to become part of the conversation from at least a few people that, repair costs and SL and stuff are an issue. And I was thinking about the time last year. So I've pretty much been streaming on Twitch for about a year now, just a little bit more. But on YouTube, I've been making stuff, too many years. And the interesting thing is I remember last year that my end goal was to hit 50 million SL by the end of the year. And I actually hit that in November. And now we're at a point in August, is it? No, it's July. We're at a point in July this year, and I'm now at about 74, 75 million SL. So in the space of 6 months, we're talking about, gaining pretty much 25 million SL. And there's got to be a way that I think what needs to be done is we need to find these people who are struggling about these things, work out their individual situations, and work out what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Because at least the way that I see it right now, I don't think SL is a limiting factor, because it never has been with me, and also a lot of the people that I know when it comes to the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I years ago, before I ever started playing War Thunder, actually, the way I got into War Thunder was when World of Warplanes. Yeah, it was World of Warplanes. When that came out, I was so stoked, and like the day it came out, I saw somebody like made a comment on Facebook, and they were like, War Thunder's better. And so I was like, okay, and I just, for some reason, I ditched my plans to get this. Yeah, I ditched my plans to get World of Warplanes, and I just got into War Thunder, and I was like, whoa, this is much better. Like it was better than World of Tanks, because at that point I hadn't played World of Warplanes. But even after I played World of Warplanes, it was trash. World of Warplanes. And the way that I think a good comparison here is really with its only somewhat competitor with Wargaming versus Gaijin. And I've never, at least for a very long time, I've never had a Silver Lions issue, because once I learned how to spend my Silver Lions, the tricks to save Silver Lions, how to play the game a little bit better, not just die in the first minute. I became I started gaining way more. Whereas in World of Tanks, with their fake vehicles and all that, I would always be at a deficit, with premium time. I don't know if I ever purchased premium ammo because I hated those people. But, I mean, you would have these things where it was quite literally pay to win. And even if you had premium time, too bad. And, I wasn't bad at that game. It's just, and admittedly, I'm better at War Thunder. But you just have these I don't know. Gaijin doesn't do a bad job of saying, hey, look, you can get this much. Like, if you get one premium, right? Like, you don't even need to get Battle Pass. You can just get premiums through the Warbond shop. Now all of a sudden, it's like you have a tool to get yourself way more Silver Lions. But even without that, you're getting yourself good Silver Lions. I mean, I remember the first time I ever used the Jagdtiger. Like, I pulled up to this hill, and I just sat there, and I must have gotten hit by like 50 to 100 shells without dying. And, and you know how many Silver Lions that gave me? Or back when the A2D1 was still a 7.0 AB plane. Like, I just went to space. I just dived down, and I destroyed bases. And each match, I was getting like 200,000 Silver Lions. And albeit, like, those are kind of, ways that you can't really do it so much anymore, but there's still ways you can do it. And I mean, actually, I ran a poll a few months ago, or last month. Yeah. Says, if you've quit War Thunder or are considering quitting, what reason would you state as being the biggest contributor to you leaving? And it was the grind and cost of playing the game. 76% out of almost 8,000 people. 76% identify that. And I'll be honest with you guys, I just don't see it. I don't. Yeah. I'm much like you. I don't see how this game is all that.
Well, maybe it's a mindset thing. So, what are your goals in War Thunder? What do you strive for? Do you strive for anything? No. Or do you just play?
Yeah, I just play. I mean, like last year. I mean, when I really started like ramping up my YouTube production and all that. I mean, right now I just play to play. I mean, I don't even like making YouTube videos a lot of the time. Like, I do it because it's fun, but like it's more of a hobby, like I just play to play. And like I also play on the hopes that it's like if War Thunder ever adds X or Y vehicle, like my vehicle right now is the ME262 HG1. If they added that, I'd be over the moon. But like I play because it's like if, for example, like a vehicle I really want to play, like the Panavia Tornado, gets added, then if I'm at that point in the tech tree, I don't have to grind anything for it, and I'm already there. You know what I mean? So it's just like I almost play in anticipation of getting new vehicles, but also it's a fun game, and this is the only game where I don't actually, well, not the only game. I don't have an anger problem, but it's like one of the only games where like I'm not upset. Yeah. Maybe it's because I do generally well in it, but I'm never really, pissed at it. I don't rage quit. I don't think I've ever rage quit in War Thunder. What would you say?
I have rage quit, but I'll tell you the exact scenario. So whenever we're streaming or whenever I'm playing, if I get 3 night battles in a row, we have a rule that I just end the stream and go for a walk, basically, because I can't deal with that. Like, especially not being able to see and having thermals or anything and playing night battles. That's a bit rough. Oh, but so my goals in War Thunder generally are to do the authentic decals when they come out, do events when they turn up, and then just spade vehicles, right? Yeah. So those are kind of like the 3 things I've been hopping around pretty much for 5 years now. And I feel like a lot of people that I meet who do get burnt out on the grind, it's because they have like one ultra focus Whether it's like trying to get to the highest rank of America or playing the Abrams, or maybe it's maybe trying to play the Hyuga for Japan or something.
Mm-hmm.
And once they get there, or once they're focusing on that one thing to get through, and either they get there or they don't get there, then they're just like, screw it, I'm done. Like I'm not interested anymore. And the other thing is, I do think people really focus on grinding the vehicles, like the research stuff, and I've never really understood why. Because I've had the most success in War Thunder when not even thinking about modifying vehicles,
Yeah.
just playing the game and just doing it that way. And I've had great success doing that. And I feel that the issue is with a lot of people is the mindset, where they want the new shiny, or they want to get to high tiers quickly. They want the most efficient way to do it, and if that efficient way isn't quick enough, then they go ballistic, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, like, there's a lot of people that I've met who just enjoy the game and kind of play what they feel like and try different tech trees and stuff, and I hope that mentality is the one that is like winning the battle in a way in the community overall. But I'm not entirely sure it is right now.
No, I totally agree. I remember actually, just in a way, like you mentioned events and also people just grinding for just to, get to X or Y area in the tech tree. I remember specifically the most recent, I think it was the most recent event, the building event. And, when the F4F early came out, like I knew, I mean, they even mentioned it in the devlog. They said that there's going to be an F4F, like regular F4F.
In the tech tree,
they said it explicitly. And like I remember, because at that point, like I'm still part of an arcade, like a top tier AB Air squadron. Believe it or not, like that's actually a thing. There's not many people who we fight because it's top tier AB Air. We're like the only squadron who does it, one of the only. But that's beside the point. Like whenever I got into matches at that BR with, and as you can imagine, a lot of people, new players who purchased the F4F early, they played AB because that's all they knew. And so I literally for 2 months straight, and at that point I wasn't even playing all that much AB Air, but for 2 months straight, I did not see a single person get a kill with an F4F early in AB Air. And I mean, this must have been after like 20 to 30 matches with it. And again, I didn't really play a ton of AB Air, maybe even 30 or 40 matches. I'm not sure. But for 2 months, not a single kill from a player that had an F4F early. I mean, I was shooting them down all the time. But I think you have a lot of the time, these people, with the terms, whether they're grinding for a vehicle or they're just buying it outright, they get to it and then they're like, I've got no idea what I'm doing. And they die.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And they leave, and it's like they've put themselves in these spots in these really advanced vehicles. Like they expect an XM1 to play the same as which I'm gonna call it, the whatever 38 for the Germans, right? The or the PZ35, I mean to say, or the PZ38T. They almost expect it. They're like, it's not gonna be that much more difficult. It's like not only are you facing much faster vehicles, but you're facing these ridiculous things, and you have people who spend hundreds of dollars buying GE to just buy their way through a tech tree, and they get frustrated, and even if you don't get frustrated, you don't learn how to play the game, you just play to grind. You get up to a higher BR, 7.0 for example. 7.0 is not easy, especially if you're relatively new to the game, especially nowadays where there's heat FS and all that everywhere. Like back in the day, I mean, it wasn't that like, it wasn't insane, but it's like there's so much to consider that these people who are purchasing these crazy, they're just kind of, like you said, focusing on the grind to reaching a vehicle, and then once they reach it, what else? Like they're disappointed, and I don't know. I mean, it's just a way. It's something where you're going to be let down. There's no two ways about it. It's just like you're setting yourself up for failure. You're not taking a walk and just enjoying the game. You know, you're not stopping to see the sights. You're just, that's it, grinding. And actually, one of my most popular videos ever is about how to get as much RP as possible. So it's like, you know, it's like, I think that there's this crazy thing where people think that this is like a disposable game. And, you know, it's a game, so I guess by its nature it's disposable for many people. But I don't know. It's just, I just never felt like this was a game where you could just rush it. You know, you have to enjoy it, do as well as you can, and just really take it for what it is, you know, enjoy it for what it is, because this game isn't like many other games, probably not like any other game out there, you know. And I don't know, it's just, don't get pissed off at it, you know. It's like your grandmother, you know, if you get pissed off at it, like, that's not cool. You know, just take your time.
Yeah, and if you want to get pissed off about it, you can go join the guys who do tournaments and stuff.
Oh, Jesus.
Take stuff way too seriously and get burnt out way quicker. Those are very fun individuals.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I really hope at some point. Well, first of all, being realistic, you're never going to have a whole community that is positive or ambivalent or neutral or whatever. But one of the nice things about updates coming around and also about events coming around is normally you hear a little less from the screaming individuals. I'm just wondering if there will ever be a point where people will just be happy to play and you know, just give it a go, and just you know, not focus on it too much, and you know, just talk to people, man. I don't know. I've met so many cool people through War Thunder, you know, from all over the world, and it's not from like making videos or anything. It's just from like squadding and, you know, being part of squadrons, talking to people. You know, it's been great, and I really hope that more people get to experience that instead of, you know, what is the picture that's painted by some, which is a very negative experience. I think even just like the last year, right? So we started the year and I'm guessing you play on US servers, right?
Primarily, yeah, but sometimes
US and EU.
I mean, sometimes if it's like, if I'm in the mood at that moment to play top tier AB Air, then it's like you kind of you can't really, you know, pick and choose. He just has to like go with whoever's open, but primarily US.
Yeah, at the start of the year, the US servers were awful. You know, for pretty much the whole of January and December last year. You know, there was packet loss issues, ping issues, all of this stuff, and then by February, it eventually got fixed. And there was a lot of complaining in January, and then, you know, it got listened to, feedback, it fixed. And I feel like that's a common thing you see in War Thunder. You see an issue, people talk about it, people report it, and it gets fixed. But that time between the issue being found and the time that it's fixed, it seems people go a little bit nuts, trying to like push it hard. And right now, I don't know if you played Enlisted at all.
A little bit.
Yeah, so in Enlisted right now, that's what's happening. Like, and it's really funny to see the parallels between War Thunder and Enlisted, because Enlisted's at a point that War Thunder was like 4 or 5 years ago, like when Tanks kind of just came out, and, you know, people were begging for communication from the devs and stuff about what they were doing. It's the same thing right now in Enlisted. It's really interesting. But yeah, I really feel like if patience was just used a little bit in game, and people just kind of relax just a little bit on issues that are there, then they wait like a week and the issue is solved. I can't think of an issue that's been in game for longer than a few years, like a bug or something like that. Like, can you name anything?
No, I mean, like the ones that really stick out are, you know, obviously ghost shells. Like, that's the biggest one. But if memory serves, that was an issue for like, what, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, something like that.
Which one? Sorry.
Ghost shells.
Yeah, Yeah, that was I think a few months.
A few months, really?
I think.
Maybe.
I mean, well, I don't know, man, because that one's a weird one. Because like I had it happen to me like twice or three times, and that was it,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't a huge issue on my end, but I feel like I kept seeing videos of it over and over again.
Yeah.
It probably was that short of a time period. You're probably right.
Yeah, no, it's like there's so many of these issues. Like, I don't know. It also doesn't really help that this past year, I'm sure with most people, but with myself especially, because like there's a lot of different stuff that went on in my life this past year, where it's like it doesn't. I don't know where it went. So it's like what might have been 2 months in game, 3 months in game felt like a week or two to me.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So it's like my ability to keep track of time really hasn't been good, but you have a lot of the time where, like you said, I mean, people, they just flip, and it's just like, I better get my premium time back for this. It's like, dude, it was off for like 3 hours, man, and you were at work. Like, what? Like people, they get it's like this what do they call it, an asymmetrical response in a way, where it's just there's something bad that happens to somebody once in game, and I can understand. I'm frustrated too sometimes. I mean, there was some guy who his shell blew up prematurely, I think yesterday, maybe earlier today, against me. Like, it blew up like 6 feet in front of my tank and didn't kill me, and then I killed him immediately. And I felt bad, it happens. But I'm sure that guy was raging, or at least a lot of people would. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to like place blame. Like, yeah, War Thunder should be good, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's a game with I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands, millions of lines of code, but it's a complex beast, and things are gonna pop up, and it's just perfection is impossible. So it's like when you have these week-long bugs, 2-week-long bugs, it's like War Thunder, in my opinion, or not War Thunder, Gaijin, they've been remarkably responsive compared to a lot of other devs out there, and publisher, whatever you want to call them, devs, just in comparison to, and I mean, this isn't, I'm not on like, their dole or anything, I'm not like being paid by them when I say that. It's just, I've experienced some really bad dev experiences, like really bad things, and Gaijin's pretty good. There's not really been anything that just sticks out to me as being this massive problem that took out months of my life,
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to that, that you mentioned, they are constantly churning out, bug fixes, and you get the change logs and stuff. I think one of the things they've done recently that's really good is how they've done the It's Fixed series, but also how in game now, when there's a change log, it kind of shows you before you enter the game. So now now there's no excuse for people not reading it, right?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I think they are constantly improving on things. I tell you one thing that's night and day compared to years ago: communication. Like, I don't think, you're talking about the M48 thing. I don't think we would have had clarification a few years ago on something like that. But now that we have, and now that it opens up other avenues for like dev Q&As, we have the sneak peek streams, for the updates. There's just tons of stuff that they do. Could they do stuff better? Yeah, of course. Like, just like anybody, but at the end of the day, like, resources aren't infinite. They're also working on a bunch of different games right now, which is kind of nuts. And as long as they just keep going, I'm going to be pretty happy. I suppose the only issue I'm having is actually the opposite thing, and as somebody who does like the battle pass, the decals, the challenges, and challenge events and everything, I think I'm actually at a point where there's too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like the I would kind of like a week's break, you know,
Yeah.
from all the stuff. And I know I can like take myself back from it, and I probably will at some point, probably in December,
Yeah.
but or August. But at the same time, it's if I was like an average player and I wasn't part of the CC program and wasn't making content on it and stuff, I feel like I would be way overloaded with
Mhm.
everything that's going on. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's almost like there's too much. I mean, especially as compared to a few years ago. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like, I'm almost kind of surprised that they don't have World War mode, a new World War mode that's been announced.
Yeah.
I mean, as somebody actually in your stream pointed out, like one of the commenters, yeah, they're working on PvE too. I mean, there's
The
just,
helicopter stuff, yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and the ground as well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just so much where it's like, and also they have air and ground air and ground arcade, like the, I mean, like the ones where like you can get the rewards and all that. And it's just
The assault ones, yeah.
yeah, assault, yeah. And it's just there's so much where it's like, yeah, there have been times where I've been so frustrated at, man, like Harrier GR1's a good example where it's just like, man, why do I have to face this thing? Okay, too bad. I guess let's go play the Tiger Tank. It's just, or like, let's go do this. Oh, now's a good time to go work on my ship tech tree. And actually, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I did. I started playing Naval around that time. And I was just like, I mean, it's not like you have to physically get out of this game and then go into another one. And even still, it's just switching a game. I mean, it's not like we're building a house or something. I mean, I don't really know if there's much of an excuse, to be like constantly pissed at this game. I mean, it's one of the most convenient games one could imagine, and yet people are just, they find issues with it. And albeit, it's like, you want to make sure that your money's going to a good place, and that it's, that you're not funding a company that's sharing British military documents with the Russian government. But it's like, I don't know. It's just, there's not really, in the grand scheme of things, it's like with everything that's going on, all the greatest things, all the great things that you can do in War Thunder, it's like, I could literally sit here for 12 hours a day and not be at a loss of things to do. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but you could. And, if one part of the game kind of stinks right now for one reason or another, there's another part, and it's just, I don't know. I don't really, unless like you're just not a big fan of the game in general, or whatever the case may be, I just don't see why people complain about this game so much. I mean, it's just, there's so much good with it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of not a critic, but
well, I think the way I see it, right, games are for fun. Okay, so if you're having a good time with it, that's great. If you're not having a good time with it, there are thousands of other games out there, right, that you can give a go at, and try and find the piece of fun that you're obviously missing.
yeah.
But the GR1 one is actually an interesting one, right? So you talked about how you kind of just were like, yep, this is busted, gonna stay away from this, which is fair. But after, it's a really good example if you ever want to use it as the reason why you don't have humans balance BRs, right? Because so after 2 days it went up in BR, which shows that it was a huge problem. That like damn statistics, you don't get enough stuff after 2 days really to show that it's a innate problem. So they bumped it up and then had to bump it up again a little bit later. So it's a really good argument against human-based balancing, that one. And there are a bunch of them in the game as well, like the Lorraine 40T and the Sturm S, like edge case examples when it comes to it. So another thing that's been brought up quite a lot, I've seen you're kind of vocal in like the CC Discord and stuff. When it comes to, do you think that CCs need more communication with the devs or the team behind the game, or do you think it's like in a fine place, or do you think we need even less like communication?
I think, I mean, it's tough. So like, I don't really communicate too much with them. I mean, like, at least not with my content partner. I mean, he's a great dude. One of the, I'm not gonna go into details, but he's a cool dude. And I kind of feel like it would behoove Gaijin maybe to send out like a newsletter or something of that nature, like on a weekly, monthly basis,
like
even
a recap.
Yeah, exactly. Or hey, like this might be coming in the near future, or whatever, like some non-confidential stuff, at least insofar as War Thunder can be confidential. And if they can release that and get people excited about the game and saying like, or like, hey, we know that this bug has been affecting people's gameplay, we're going to fix it, because they don't really advertise that necessarily all too much on their Twitter or their homepage or whatever the case may be. And it's just, I don't know, like, I don't know if what form more communications would take with Gaijin, but I feel like just kind of making info more transparent might be a good thing. Where it's just like, like where I don't have to reach out to them.
Clarification, right?
Exactly, yeah, like where we don't have to reach out to them necessarily, but they just kind of make some things more apparent, and then if we want to inquire more about it, we can reach out.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of a newsletter thing, and not just for like CCs, actually for everybody.
Yeah.
I know there was, I don't know if it was community run or if it was like volunteer kind of run where they got like some stuff in game for doing it, but there was like a War Thunder newsletter a few years ago. I have no idea what happened to it, even if it's still around or not, but it was pretty well made. I'm gonna have to dig it up. But yeah, I kind of like that idea. And then, it could be something where they put out, frequently asked questions in or something like that.
Yeah.
But at least from my point of view, I feel like we have pretty decent connections to get stuff asked or to push through like bug reports and things.
Yeah.
I think certain people are way overworked on the Gaijin end of things. When it comes to having to deal with everything, but at the same time, it's not too bad. I always once again like bring back a few years ago where there was very little communication about anything. So the leaps and bounds that have been made are well enough. So when it comes to the newsletter and things, would something incorporated in that, maybe like a roadmap or something? Is that something you're in favor of?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, and this is somewhat related to it, I'm actually working on a video now, hopefully going to release it on Saturday. Not trying to plug it on your channel or anything, but,
That's all right.
So
do
like,
what you want.
What was that?
Do what you want. Say what you want, man.
Oh yeah, so I've got a book anyway. No, I'm joking, but, just like all of a sudden, like you see my camera, I'm just like sitting here on a couch like it's a late night show. But but yeah, no, I mean, like I'm working on something now where I'm looking at like the old maps, right? Like, I mean, there was a map back in 2014 where Gaijin laid out their plans for the air tech trees, for the US, USSR, Germany, Japan, Great Britain. And I thought that was a great idea, like what they expect to come to the game in a few years and however long. And they haven't done anything like that, at least to my knowledge, since 2014. Like how
they pretty much do it whenever they release a tech tree.
Really? What do you?
Yeah,
I mean, outside of like new tech trees, I mean to say.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So when new tech trees come out, they normally, like China is the most recent example, I think.
Yeah.
They pull out like a tech tree with it and then have like planned and then soon on them. I can find it for you if you want.
Well,
but not similar to the aviation one though. I do agree.
Well, more so what I mean is like because I was thinking about mentioning that, but like when it comes to, because like the one that actually I kept encountering while trying to get this video together was the Chinese tech tree, actually, the Chinese ground forces tech tree. And, you know, while they do that, like, they don't currently do that for, you know, currently...
Like standing nations, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, I mean, I would love to know, like, because you do see, like, the pass to developers things. You know, I see that you make those videos actually quite often. I actually watch them quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's good to know, you know, what's being considered and what might not be. But I don't know. I just feel like having it in like a visual sort of thing, maybe in like a format, you know, or not format, like a newsletter. I don't know. I feel like stuff like that, public outreach and public, just really PR. If Gaijin could improve their PR, whether it's with content creators or just the general public, that would go a long way towards improving their image and really helping people enjoy the game. Because I feel like people have this weird outlook on Gaijin where it's like they're this, you know, evil corporation that sits on top of a mountain like in the Smurfs, you know, where it's just like they're out to get, you know, people, and it's just all Gaijin wants to do is take your money and make your life miserable. And I don't know. I mean, they're good. They just have to communicate it.
Yeah, if that was the case, the game would have been dead a long time ago.
Oh, exactly.
Like there's no game that only exists to make your life a living hell. Because generally people turn away from that unless they're masochists.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many masochists in the world.
Oh.
The interesting thing about the plan stuff, or like, you know, letting people know what may be coming. There's a few points about it, because I've thought about this in the past, and we had that huge leak last month, right? Of all the vehicles, and you know, the naval stuff, the air stuff, the ground stuff, and I've been thinking this is a great opportunity to test a theory. Because one of the things that I've been discussing with a few people is one of the big draws to updates and to stuff like that is kind of not knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
So then when the devlogs get released, then they get a lot of, you know, attention, and it's like, oh, what's this new thing? Maybe I can research it. Maybe I can, you know, talk to people about it and stuff. It's a new thing that's on the menu. Where if you know everything that's coming up in advance, are you as interested in it? You know, because that wow factor is kind of faded by that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is a great opportunity in like the next year, because obviously, you know, not everything in that leak is either going to come out, or maybe, you know, some stuff doesn't work, or maybe they hold it for like future years. But some of the stuff is definitely going to be known, kind of like the 251 that was in the leak. And I want to see what the general response is to these things, whether it's the same or whether it's less, or whether it's the third thing, which is people going, well, that's cool, we knew that was coming, where's this other thing that was coming?
Yeah.
Right? Even though it doesn't have a time period on it. And I think, at least from my point of view, if I was like creating a game like this, I would be wary of that.
Yeah.
Where if something doesn't work, like the Mirage, right? People literally went on about the Mirage for like a year and a half straight.
Oh yeah, I remember
And
that.
just asking for it, right? And even Gaijin came out, even Esman, right, the community manager, he came out and he said, look, they're working on it, give it time. And then every update after he said that, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And I want to see with this massive leak if that is the general communication from people, or if it is still going to be the hype stuff. And I'm hoping it's still the hype stuff, and I think that'll give us a great indication on whether they should do stuff like, okay, we're planning to do this, or, you know, here's like a newsletter. If it's the other way though, and people start going negative on it, saying, where's my stuff? Why haven't you given me the correct stuff that I know that you've made? Then it's going to become a huge shit show.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like, I remember actually a funny part of one of the last streams in regards to the most recent update was when I think it was Mike Goes Boom. He was just saying like he was teasing the F-14, but you know, obviously it was the F-5E if I'm not mistaken, and it's just like I remember also Scottish Koala. he also made a video. He's like, well, I can't say, you know, this or that or the other thing, but I guess somehow, you know, he claims that he has insider information. And at
No, there's I'll tell you exactly what that's from if you want.
Sure.
There's a guy who, I can't remember his name. He's made a few videos with Napalm. He's a dude who knows a few modelers who make models for Gaijin, and basically they sometimes, it seems, break NDA or contract and just send him some of the things. And Koala actually leaked on one of his streams. He showed the DMs to the dude. Well, I don't know if he leaked it. He might have done it on purpose, but if he did it on purpose, that's a very stupid move. And it was just, you know, very, very early drawing, well, very, very early 3D imagery of the F-14. This is parallel to the leaks we had like 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago, where a bunch of not really, it's not concept 3D stuff, but early 3D modeling was happening for a lot of vehicles, and some of them have actually been added to the game now, like the J5 for the Japanese. But yeah, that's pretty much where that comes from.
Wow. Oh, well, yeah, I was not
I'll try
aware.
And find the I'll try and find the name of the guy.
Yeah. Do you know if he's still working with Gaijin?
He never did work with Gaijin.
Oh, so
he just knows people who does. So when it comes to the models, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's 100%, but it's close to, if not fully. All of the models themselves, like the physical models you see, are outsourced.
Yeah, it's actually
yeah. So if you can gain connections with the guys who make them, then there you go. You know?
Yeah.
you can work out what's being worked on.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, like, it's not funny, but like at the end of the day, I'm kind of inclined to kind of see it in the regard that if we were to say, you know, hey, this vehicle is going to come out, rather than just some like vague roadmap, you know, where it's like, well, we want to make this, you know, we want to make that,
new
you know,
aircraft.
So, yeah, you know, I mean, like the one that I actually have for that video I'm working on shows the ME262, and this is from 2014, the 262 HG2, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if the HG1's on there, but like that's a planned vehicle, and it's like, should they do something like that? Should they not? Like, I mean, I personally got my hopes up for it, and you know, it's been 7 years. But at the end of the day, it's like if you know, if they say, okay, this is going to be coming out in the next patch, or we're going to come out with this in the next year, it's like, will people, in a way, almost, it's going to give people a year to be pissed off about it, you know, because it's like, oh, subs are coming to Naval, it's going to be unplayable, you know, and that's all they're going to talk about for a year. They're not going to talk about that the Alaska class cruisers might be coming, that the Bismarck might be coming. They're not going to say like those things. They're going to say, yeah, but subs are going to destroy it, without knowing how subs can be defeated, you know, beyond visual range missiles. Once those start becoming a really big thing in War Thunder, now all of a sudden, all they're going to talk about is, oh man, this is going to be unplayable, you know? It's just, I almost kind of feel like people are going to, if they had advance warning of things rather than just kind of being hyped up about it in the dev blogs, which, you know, I like the dev blogs because those get me views. But, you know, it's a little biased, but, you know, that's actually one of the ways I started my YouTube. With like, I remember like I was sitting in my car, I was like, wow, I got 50 views on this, you know, and that was it. You know, after a week, I got 50 views on a dev blog, but I got 2 subs, you know, but that's beside the point. You know, it's almost as though by announcing things to people, they, in a way that's not like a hype thing, like a dev blog, they're going to get pissed, you know, like they're going to find the things that really are the negative aspects of it, or the possibly negative aspects of it, without like knowing exactly how it'll work. Because I mean, if Gaijin tells someone, hey, we're going to be coming out with the F-14 Tomcat in 1.5 years, right? Yeah. So about 4 or 5, 6 maybe updates. Then it's like, you don't know what that thing's going to be like. You don't know what it's going to face. You don't know how it's going to be stopped or whatever. Like, I don't know. I mean, in a way, leaks can be a fun thing, because it's not necessarily guaranteed that X or Y thing is coming, and if it is, it's not coming anytime soon. But
Yeah.
if they started announcing ahead of time with certainty that we're getting, a certain vehicle or whatever it might be, I don't know. I almost kind of, I'd be of the mindset that could work against Gaijin just because of the animosity and the people that they kind of just feel like Gaijin's going to do them dirty regardless, or they just
Yeah.
kind of snap to the,
Yep.
oh man, this is gonna suck because it's Gaijin. Anyways, I've got myself top tier in 3 tech trees. It's just like, dude, why are you playing, man? Like, if you're so upset about this game, it's like so many people like they get to like top BRs in like 1 or 2 or 3 tech trees, and then they're just complaining about how they hate this game, but they still play it. It's just such a weird dynamic with this community. I can't explain it.
There's definitely some very odd people in it.
Yeah.
The way I describe it is, you could solve world hunger, but people will still be pissed because people used to sell they used to sell the food.
Yeah.
So now you put them out of jobs. Like whatever effect, whatever cause you do, it's going to have an effect, right? And whatever they decide to do, there's going to be a negative. Whether it's in the case of recently the Sagittario, there was a lot of annoyed players who really like playing it because it's going up in BR.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have to do the thing that makes the most sense for the majority. And I think as long as the mindset is kept that the vocal part is the minority when it comes to the negative stuff. Otherwise, the game would keep, decreasing in player base, and no one would ever play it anymore if it was so negative. But I feel, for me, what has been nice over the last few years is there's been quite a decent amount of pushback against the negativity, and I definitely want to keep going with that.
Same.
In general. It's nice. It's nice to see a lot of people who are not really on my wavelength when it comes to things, but just enjoying the game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like I was playing with Laura Daly the other day, and she's been streaming for about 7 months.
Wow.
She's picked up the game around about the same time, and she's having a blast. We played 7-7, 6-7, 4-7, 5-7 different nations. She's having a great time, and the way I see it in my head is, I bet you there's tons of people out there with exactly the same mindset, right? Who are just playing the game and having fun. And I really think focusing massively on the negative aspects is just going to be a detriment, not just for the general community, but also from the person who's trying to cover it. Because they're going to go nuts too. I feel like I've gone nuts over the years, like looking at this stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if it's the same, where you are geographically, but I could tell you that here in the U.S., and I think it's almost kind of like the multiplicative effect that we have on social media and various things, that we think that these very vocal people are the majority, right? That the people who speak and they spew this hatred, or they think that everything's a problem in game, that it's like, not only do you think that a lot of people think that, but if you see people talking about it a lot, then all of a sudden you're like, man, maybe this problem does exist. And then you start seeing ghosts, where they don't exist. And it's like, I don't know. It's this weird detriment. And some of the most vocal YouTubers, they're not outright saying it. They're not, saying that War Thunder is this bad game, but everything to them is...
Some of them are.
Oh, yeah, some of them are, yeah,
like
unfortunately.
I have some wonderful quotes. Like, I will never forget. So, Spookston, he did like a review of the game. And one of the quotes I will never forget is he called it a hellish nightmare.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right. Like, you can just go sit over there somewhere. Like, goddamn. But yeah, there's definitely, I don't know. I feel a lot is like, when I look at a lot of CCs, like I think the general amount of them are positive. Like, a lot of them just seem to make memes and have a good time. I think the competitive side of it's a bit overly negative.
Yeah.
But generally, it's not too bad. You know, I think it's all good.
I don't know. I think also another thing is just like that's what gets the headlines, right? It's like, you know, in much the same way. It's like the 24-hour news cycle. I mean, like everything, at least in the U.S., is breaking news, and the reason being is because it catches attention. So it's like when you make, oh, this is the X or Y problem, or you know, this is the problem with War Thunder. It's like if all you see are like, if you see a guy with 100,000 subs, right? I mean, by any metric, that's a pretty sizable amount of subs, especially for a War Thunder YouTuber. And you look at it and you're seeing, wow, you know, this guy's talking about, I don't know, I'm not going to say exactly who. Okay, maybe I'll say it. Like stability, you know, or stabilizers. That's a big issue. It's like, for what? 3 tanks? Like 10 tanks? Like, is it really a big, like, has that really halted your progress or halted your enjoyment of the game? Like, really? You know, I mean, it goes back down, and of course you want to make as perfect of a game as possible, but it gets back down to it where it's like, okay, this stinks. I'm going to go play something else and wait until they fix it next week. It's like, you know what? I don't know. It's just, I can never identify with people who complain about this game so much because, I mean, there's other stuff to do. You know, I don't even have to, like, get up and say, I'm going to watch Seinfeld, you know, or I'm going to watch, like, you know, reruns of The Twilight Zone or something. It's like, okay, I'm just going to play Germany now. Like, what's the difference, you know? I mean, there's just so much enjoyable stuff, you know, where, I don't know. It just feels like people complain. I think it's just in vogue to complain. You know,
I think so too. Yeah.
And it stinks because it's like I think that a lot of people want to see the positive in it, and a lot of people do. And you know, you and I both, I think we share that mindset where it's like War Thunder is a good thing. You know, it's a good game, run by a relatively competent developer. But
seems to be.
Yeah. You know, and they like history. You know, I mean, they're not just throwing in fake vehicles. You know, you can make an argument versus paper designs and not, and if they have a place in the game. But ultimately, for the most part, they at least have their roots in reality. You know, whereas, I don't know, it's just, there's bigger things to complain about, you know, and like when I was a kid, I always thought to myself, man, it's like, this stinks, but, you know, there's some kid, you know, in X or Y country that's literally never even seen a Game Boy. It's like, do I really have any right to complain about this? Like, this is stupid. Like, you know, I've had my tires blown out, or not tires, but, you know, on like the day before Mother's Day here in the U.S., it's like at 3 a.m. It's like, that's a bigger problem than War Thunder's ever presented me. You know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's definitely an argument to say that I feel like people be getting annoyed at video games. If that is the thing that annoys them in life, they're doing all right.
Yeah.
You know, like they probably have a pretty good life. And if they don't have a good life and they're taking it out on the video game, then fair enough. But at the same time, it may be worth trying to channel your anger in other places.
Yeah.
You know, to improve the situation you're in. Yeah, that's one. You know, as we said before, if I have a few bad games, I just go for a walk, or I read a book, or I watch a TV show.
Yeah.
And I really hope that mentality it goes in. I've seen the same people for years complain about the same thing. And I think now, at least for me, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and get them on like streams just to chat to them and see where their headspace is at.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be really fun just to see these people.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like see what's going on with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I remember there's this one YouTuber. I'm not gonna, you know, say his name on here, but he made like this video essay basically where it was just like, oh man, you know, War Thunder sucks, and it's just like, you know, I forgot, like it was
the build a new engine guy.
No, actually, it was
different dude.
Yeah, I never even heard about him, but I guess I'm gonna have to go look at his videos. But oh wait, build the new engine guy. Wait, do you know his his acronym?
So, well, Steel X Wolf.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is it that dude?
Yeah, it is that dude. Yeah, I remember he was complaining.
I tried to get him. Well, no, so he has like a podcast thing. It's called the Salty Podcast or Salty Platoon or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I suppose fits with the idea. But I was like, hey, dude, I'll come on and chat about these things. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll have you on. And then he tried to like set up something where it'd have like counterpoints to me and stuff, but it just never happened. And I kept like being like, give me a time. Like 24/7, we'll chat about these things and we'll go through them, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And that video was so funny, because so have you ever done like game development or like marketing or anything like that?
Oh,
or like read about it or anything?
I couldn't say outside of like a summer camp where it kind of introduced me to like the very basic stuff. No, never.
Yeah. So basically like, over like the last few years, like I've been reading and watching a lot of stuff about like game development. Not because I'm like, I don't want to go into it. I'm very happy with my position.
Yeah.
But it's more about just trying to learn about these things, especially like marketing and stuff. And it's really interesting because when people start saying ridiculous stuff like, you should scrap the engine you have been upgrading and working on for like 20 years or 10 or 15 years. Then like they have honestly no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun video. I enjoyed that one. And there's a lot of them like that. Like to me, it's entertainment nowadays.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like there was actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, because actually I do want to learn.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, so like a lot of people, and I myself have even said in the past, when I was a little bit more ignorant on the subject. Like, why don't they just stop, like, instead of 40 vehicles, make 30, and then take 10 take X or Y people, or those man hours that would be used to develop vehicles and develop new game modes or whatever. But aren't people pretty much, it's just like, okay, you're a vehicle develop, and again, they contract out, so it might not even be a reasonable thing to say, but, like, what if it's just like, I mean, people who have their specialty in this or that, whatever it might be, maps or, bugs or whatever, they can't just be shifted around, right? Like, it's just they do their thing and that's it.
I mean, there's probably a bit of flexibility, but you are correct. Like, there's teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's teams that do different things. Like, they have like a bug fixing team, new naval or like naval team, ground team, aviation team. They have all of these different parts of it, and I'm sure it's just like if you took like a new coder and you give somebody else's old code, he's going to have to learn basically from the ground up how it all works.
Yeah.
Because the way that person's programmed will have like little intricacies to how they generally do stuff. Whether it's like keywords or whether it's just how they do things. So I'm sure there's like when they bring new people in, or when they add people to the teams, or when they move people around, they probably are malleable enough to be able to do it. But at the same time, it's going to take a while and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The crazy thing to me, right, when it comes to these games like War Thunder and like Enlisted as an example, or even just even like World of Tanks, the actual core development team is really small.
Yeah.
Compared to what you'd think it would be. And normally they've been doing it for years and years and years. So to me, at least, from my point of view, I feel like they're probably very much drilled into what they can do, or at least it seems like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like I think that there's this misconception with a lot of people that it's just a lot of people can, just these workers or the people who work at Gaijin or any place, I mean, one thing I highly recommend you look up, Heroes of the Storm.
By Blizzard, yeah.
Yeah. So I used to play that a lot, because I'm a weird person and, I don't play League, I play Heroes.
Right.
And so, or I used to, but, if you ever like look up, they posted this picture of like the team working on that game, maybe like 2 months ago, or not 2 months ago, like 2 years ago, I mean to say. And I mean, it was like 8 people. It was something like hilariously small because, I mean, of course they're getting away from that game, But I think a lot of people just think that like it's almost kind of like 1,000 monkeys in like in a room situation where like they're gonna create like a whatchamacallit, like a what's the phrase, like where if you stick 1,000 monkeys in a room with a typewriter, they're gonna do something, like they're gonna make a some sort of a Steinbeck or whatever. I almost kind of feel like people think that like that they just have like these villages worth of developers, you know, working, and it's just like, well, you know, because I've got a game called Devlog Simulator, or not Devlog Sim, like Developer Simulator or Game Dev Simulator, you know, and in that game I've got 500, you know, workers under me. I can just shift around my resources and, you know, do whatever I want. It's just, the real life isn't that malleable. I mean, like you, in much the same way, like you can't take a security guard and say, hey man, you want to be a coal miner tomorrow? You know, I mean, they'd probably die, you know, pretty quickly. It's just, I don't know. Of course, that's not the same thing, and I'm kind of making a little bit of hyperbole there, but I don't know.
You're right. It's you know, even with the example, you're completely right. It's different conditions, different environments, you know, different set of skills. It just is how it is. It's why like when you talk to like, I don't know, like CEOs or people like that, when one of the big criticisms they have, where they're like, well, we can't increase production, you know, the efficiency isn't there, and then people are like, well, why don't you hire more people? It's like, well, it's not going to help. Like they're just now instead of having like if somebody is doing a job at 100% and you hire somebody else to come on, if they both do the job at 100%, they're still doing the same as the first guy, so they're still at 100%. So now what you've done is, instead of actually increasing efficiency, you've now just split it so two people do 50% instead of one person doing 100. So you don't actually get more out of it, right? And that's like a concept that is really alien to people, because they think, okay, well, if you hire two people, then they should be able to do 200%. So, you know, you get double the stuff. But a lot of things don't work like that, because there's so many different other parts or other functions of what's going on which stop it. It's kind of like a clock, right? Where you have like all these moving parts, the cogs, you know, the actual front of it itself. If you remove one of them and change it, then it might work the same. It might break. It might even get better. But it's really hard to make that decision to try and improve it, because you could literally break the whole thing.
I mean, it's you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And you know, if you have limited input, I mean, like, I know it's just, I've got a weird thing, like a penchant for making weird analogies. So if I continue to make them, you know, that's so I mean, I don't know why, but like as soon as you said that, I was just like thinking, you know, like if I only put out 2 garbage bags a week, and they hire 3 garbage men to take those, and then like there's 4 garbage men one week, it's like then they're still taking the same 2 trash bags out. It's just like, I don't know why I was thinking that, you know, but
that's a great analogy. That's a really, really good analogy. I'm not gonna lie, that's a really good analogy. I should use that. Instead of the other one.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you consider the trash to be people complaining about War Thunder, maybe, you know. No, I'm joking. If people complain about it, it's you know, it's your opinion if you want it. That's my hey, I'm gonna save my subscribers sort of statement. But you know, it's I don't know. There's just a lot of things out there where I don't know. It's just I can't help it, but just think. I mean, I would imagine you and I are probably pretty much about the same age. You know, we've certainly played this game for years and years. Where you know, I don't really know if even age would matter. So we probably have a similar amount of experience in the game, and it's like I remember back in the day, you know, I used to have a Super Nintendo, and it's like the first time I ever played online and I was blown away by it was Halo 2. You know, I was just like, whoa, this is amazing. I can kill people in San Jose, California. You know, it's just like crazy to me. Like, not actually kill people, but, you know, beat them in a game. And it's just, I don't know. I almost kind of feel like our capacity, our internet, like the incredible speed in which we can communicate with people has really almost kind of turned into an incredible speed in which we can just complain in a weird way. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of ranting again, but it's just a really weird thing. Like everything is weird to me.
I think over the years, like at least the idea you're putting forward is kind of correct. How it's not really an attention span thing, but I feel like we've got to a point now where everybody wants everything instantaneously.
Yeah.
And so if they complain about a problem and it isn't instantly fixed, then that also is a problem, and then it metastasizes and becomes an even bigger issue. And then eventually, when it gets fixed, you kind of like pop the bubble and everything goes down again.
Mm.
I don't think that's as maybe it's not a recent thing, but I definitely think it's got worse recently. And it's not just War Thunder; it's just everything.
Yeah.
Like business wise, pretty much all the other games as well. If something is noticed, it should be fixed now as well. So yeah, it's a little bit odd to me. But patience is the main problem I see in a lot of cases, because when I think about all the issues War Thunder's had over the years, the vast majority have been fixed with time, and
Yeah.
I think just giving stuff time definitely helps. Doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh God,
You.
sorry, I'm just stretching.
No, that's fine. I much the same. I've been. I don't know why, but like I've been having some foot pains over the last few days, so I'm kind of surprised that I haven't made any sound on the stream quite yet, but maybe soon. There's no guarantee, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just this weird thing, and it's almost like a snowball effect where it's just like, you have this allowable behavior, right, or a behavior that doesn't go corrected, um, and it's well, I don't want to go ahead and call people children, but if you don't correct behavior in a child, I mean, it becomes an issue. And in much the same way, it's like if you see, and if a child sees one person, like another kid, doing something that gets them attention, then they go ahead and do it. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's almost, as I said before, and you've noticed, it's just, you see, wow, this guy's getting a ton of views by complaining, let me do it. And it's just, it's not only a behavior that gets repeated, but it's a behavior that gets rewarded. And then what's going to happen is eventually the well of players is going to die out. I mean, there's going to be people who continually see, wow, why does the player base hate War Thunder so much?
Yeah.
And it might not be this month, this year, within 3 years, but it's like if you have enough negativity, you're going to create problems where there are none. It's just like, I don't know. There's other things to do, than complain.
I think that already happens, especially with some people. Where manufactured outrage, I think, is the term.
Yeah.
When it comes to it. But yeah, I really like when you look at the last year, right? So the game is dying myth has finally died. So, which is kind of funny because I mean you have points that you can point to, like the fact that War Thunder was in the top 20 revenue making games on Steam in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, which is insane, right? Like it's and Steam isn't even its main platform.
Yeah.
More people use the launcher. So that means that War Thunder itself is doing really well. There's a lot of people playing it. There's a lot of conversations going on. So I think nowadays the best thing to do is to maybe, at least from what I'm going to try and do, is push back against some of these crazy narratives.
Yeah.
And see where it ends up with. Because, man, I enjoy the game. I want other people to. Like, it's... And if I was new to the game, like whenever I start a new game, I go to the Reddit, I go to the Twitter, I go to the forums, I see what people are talking about.
Yeah.
And if all I see is just crazy people just constantly talking about how the game's busted and how it's broken and stuff, well, I'm just not going to play the game. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy of the same people saying it's going to die and then causing it to die.
Yeah.
But luckily, at least social media in general in War Thunder doesn't have a huge effect because, well, like you said, the age of people playing is, I think Anton said, it was either Anton or Kirill, they did a presentation in 2015 or 16 and they talked about the fact that the average age of not just the demographic they were aiming for, but the average age of people playing these types of games was 35.
Wow.
So, and the vast majority of people who actually are on places like Reddit are much younger than that.
Yeah.
We're talking normally 16 to 21, and also the vast majority of people who use stuff like Reddit are Americans, which are going to have, you know, their biases just like the Russians are going to on stuff like BK.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's you know, I can tell you firsthand from being an American that they are crazy in many regards, and it's just like you go online. It's just, I mean, it's just that's, I don't know. You know, I had something I was going to say, but it totally slipped. But you know, ultimately, oh, that's what it was. One thing that actually, a fun fact before I even get into that, I have a history video that I released last year about the P1101, and like I was checking out like who the heck is watching this, because out of nowhere, I mean, I've gotten tens of thousands of views on this over like the last few days. I don't know how, but the people watching it are almost exclusively above 55 years old. So it's like there must have been something at a like some sort of History Channel thing that was showcasing this plane. But that's beside the point. But you have I think that probably like one of the best things that we could do, you know, as content creators, but even just regular people in the community, is just like, hey, if you like this game, it's like, and someone's saying, and I know that you said it's died, but the myth has died, but you know, I'll just use it as an example. If someone's saying like, hey, War Thunder's dying, you know, or it's a dead game. I mean, if you look it up, actually, one of the top questions on Google is War Thunder a dead game? Like, no joke. And the answer that it gives is yes, it is, or something of that effect. And you know, it's like it becomes weird because it's like people like me, you know, I'm always looking up statistics, and I see exactly like you saw. Well, I mean, I didn't see the how much it grossed on Steam, but I could see easily like that's one of the most played games on Steam. You know, I mean, of course, it's not like you know, League of Legends or whatever, Dota 2, but it's still, I mean, top 20 is ridiculously respectable. On Steam, it's like there's only 20 games in the entire world above that. It's like that's, and it does it day in, day out, month in, month out. And I think like probably the most important tool that we could use is statistics. It's like, okay, well, back up your claim. You know, you think that this game is dying. It's like, did you hear it from somebody? I mean, most people, so many people in the community, the most vocal people are parrots. You know, like they hear something and then they repeat it. They repeat it until it becomes nothing, like until it's almost like the definition, the meaning's been lost. It's like a weird game of telephone. And, you know, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing how these people, they hear something, you know, that one person or another told them, and then they think that's true, and then they don't like do the research themselves, and before long it becomes a major issue with people believing it. I mean, you could draw parallels to almost anything in the modern world with that. It's not just this game, but I don't know, it's just, I just wish people kind of did their research, I guess. Might be probably about the takeaway from that.
Yeah, generally, yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah.
You know, spreading falsehoods is kind of annoying. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
But it is how it is. Like, I mean, as I said, I'm personally going to try and get people on at least the stream who do have these opinions, and I want to see if they actually believe them or they're just memeing. Because sometimes it's really hard to tell, like if they're actually being serious or not about what they're saying. So that's another issue. But yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. But let's see. I'm probably going to be playing some Enlisted pretty soon. But I tell you what, this has been a wonderful chat. I've enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you ever want to do it again, just let me know, man.
Yeah,
It's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I you know, I look forward to it. I'll let you know. You know, I'm down for it whenever. You know, because at the end of the day, I mean, especially on your stream. Like, I don't really have a ton of Twitch followers, but you know, it's like I think that not only are these good to flesh out like the various things that might be or might not be issues, but it's a good way to remind people that this game isn't bad. You know, it's still a fun game, and I know we're probably preaching to the choir with that, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. So, you know, thank you for the opportunity, for sure.
No, I mean, pleasure's all mine. Please, if you ever want to chat about anything or, you know, have any thoughts, just hit me up, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I stream every afternoon, so it's
Yeah.
easy as. Yeah, thank you a lot for the chat.
Yeah, no.
Really appreciated it.
Thank you. You know, again, I appreciate and thank you for everything.
All right, see you later, bro.
Okay, take care, man.